Okay, I think that's quite enough of that. We don't have to wait 5 minutes to start. Now, could it be possible that you can see and hear me at last? Is this happening at last? This live stream that's over an hour. Seeing the countdown and sound is good, says Heather. Fingers crossed. Yay! Are we live? Are we there? Oh my God. Well, if you're watching this back after the fact and you haven't a clue what's going on, I will tell you that we have had serious technical issues. And when I say we, I mean Melanap, who are the people who stream. The streaming site was down. I mean, the website was up, but the streaming server was down. So apparently people can see and hear me. Oh, at long last. In the meantime, I did serve myself a little dram. Just because I was sitting here just twiddling my thumbs waiting for the whole thing to happen. Oh, man. Yes, Heather was the first of the commenters on the actually working live stream. Let's keep the fingers crossed that it keeps working. You are out there tonight, says Facebook user. I am streaming to the Mythical Ireland community, but I can't see who's commenting. That's annoying. Anyway, Heather is celebrating the fact that she can see me. That's very unusual, but I mean, that would be a first. Tom wants to know if we're live from the moon. Jim Shine says, yes, sir, presumably too. Can you see and hear me? Erica Bow is in the house, as is Anya Ryan, who has been waiting patiently for over an hour. Barbara Murphy is saying yes. Edie Purty says live on YouTube, but not on Facebook. Oh, I hope I'm live on Facebook. I'm certainly seeing Facebook comments. Robin Edgar says he's all ears. Are you listening? Are you listening? Maria says, yay, Sweden looking. Good evening to Sweden. Good night to our friends in Scandinavia. Mandy McCurl is in Belache in Northern Ireland. Hello there. Sure, I could nearly wave up the road to you. How are things? Melissa is in Killarney. Good evening, Melissa. Welcome. I probably won't spend so much time on the comments tonight because we need to get going, don't we? It's 9:10 Irish time. We're only an hour and 10 minutes late. Ah, there you are, says the full Irish Gary, who does not add his usual grand day on the sod, but then it wasn't. It was a poxy day on the sod. It's going to be very cold this week as well. Think you deserve it too, says Facebook user. I'll probably have to open Facebook and see who that is, see who these mysterious Facebook users are who are no doubt commenting on the Mythical Ireland community on the stream. Yes, that's Sheila Gunn. Sheila, who also said you're out there tonight. Sheila, good evening, good afternoon. Fergal Canton is in Clears in Kilkenny. Trad session on. Wow. Come on, the Bards. Where's Clears? Never heard of it. Wow. There are places in Ireland I've never heard of. Brendan wants to know if there's one for everyone in the audience. It's Redbreast 12. So quick answer is no, there isn't. Good morning, Tom. No, it wasn't. You weren't waiting that long. Look, there he goes. Bitter day on the sod. Got that right. Viking Scars, Highland Park. Very nice. Coming in loud and clear. It's warm here, 26 Celsius, says Elaine, in a very non-boasting kind of way. In a very non-kind of give everyone else the finger sort of way. Yeah. Wayne Bird says, evening, Anthony, looking good. Thanks, Wayne. You're leaving B on Facebook from Michelle. Not sure what you mean, but hello to all our Pennsylvanian friends. And Paul Campbell is in Glasgow. There you go. Mandy's in Belache, and Paul is in Glasgow. There you are. Sorry, autocorrect is always correcting. Live in Pennsylvania. That's more like it, Michelle. You're very welcome. Somebody's saying hello. That's Paula Snow Queen. Still not able to get Melanap and the Mythical Ireland community group on Facebook speaking to each other properly. Very unusual. Clears is a great pub, says Stephen O'Hara. He should know. He's in the area. Barb Jordan is in the house, as is Marianne. You're all very welcome. Oh, The worst of it is when there are technical difficulties and you immediately are paranoid that what did I do? What did I do? What did I kick? What did I knock? What did I spill water on? What did I plug out? And I checked everything, and I turned the camera on and off, and connected the lead and disconnected the lead and restarted Chrome. Then I said, no, it's still not working. So I restarted the computer, still not working, and was absolutely going nuts trying to figure out what the hell was wrong. And eventually I saw a notification on the Melon app page. There is an issue on our server provider side. Streaming might be unavailable. We're working on a fix. So there you go. It seems that they have fixed it. Let's keep the fingers crossed that they have fixed it and that they will have fixed it for the duration of Live Irish Myths, after which I don't care whether it breaks again or not. No, I'm only joking. That's not very fair. Excuse me. I love to see all the books behind you. To have a rummage, says Melissa. Yes, I did a couple of episodes during the pandemic featuring, what's in my library. But the library has expanded significantly by then, by at least a third, actually. So, yeah, I'm sure you would. Do you reckon I could bring people in here and charge them to have a browse? Helena is saying thanks to the technical F words. Helena, you won't mind if I don't show that on the screen, just in case, Tonight we are talking about the Bards. Specifically, I'm reading from Ward Rutherford's book, which is called Celtic Mythology. Subtitle, The Nature and Influence of Celtic Myth from Druidism to Arthurian Legend. Anne McCallum is in the house. Hope everyone's in fine fettle. We had bitterly cold temperatures, torrential rain and fierce winds with gusts of up to 90 kilometres. And though it's completely overcast, getting dark now, with lots more rain coming. It was sunny earlier today and a pleasant 6 Celsius. That sounds a bit like Ireland right now. And we're due to get a big cold spell this week. I hope you're well ensconced, Anne, with a dram or a brew of some sort, Anyway, let us proceed. Now, I'm just going to see. Maybe this might end up being a 2-episoder. Let's see. Let's see how I get on. Anyway. Glass of vino, says Anne. Well, let's launch it. Mine is a Redbreast 12. And you know the way whiskey is to be drunk. Well, first of all, neat. No ice or water or anything like that. And second of all, sipped, not to be glugged. And that's only my third sip of the evening, just in case anyone's wondering. Well, Marcia, it's been one of those evenings. You sit down at the computer at 7:45 with everything ready, and all you expect to do is say, click, go live, fill out a few things, and, get the video going, saying the 5-minute countdown. Not tonight. It was a very different kind of night. According to the classical writers, 3 classes enjoyed particular esteem in Celtic society. And you'll know how I feel about the word Celtic. But anyway, heading the list were Druids. But after them came those whom they called the Vates and the Bards. The first, the source of our word vaticination, were, so they tell us, diviners. Fahi in Irish, F-A-I-T-H-I. The second, the Irish filid, F-I-L-I-D, were poets, musicians, and storytellers. In other words, custodians of mythology. And if you saw the graphic advertising this evening's live stream, you'll have seen that's what I called it, the Bards - custodians of mythology. Helen is in the house. Greetings. Good afternoon. Welcome, welcome. Please pull up a pew. Somebody was joking. Was it Brendan Byrne was joking on my announcement that the stream was going to be late because of technical problems? He said Anthony will be late for once. Little black book time. Very funny. Yes, indeed. Very funny. However, this information is already of comparatively late date. For it was only when the Celts reached the Mediterranean littoral about the middle of the first millennium BC that the classical world's acquaintanceship with them began. By this time, their society had undergone considerable change, and it is plain that in earlier times the druidic functions had included those later taken over by the Vates and Bards, and that, furthermore, the separation was never absolute. This is one reason why, in the Irish stories, the terms bard and druid are so often interchangeable, and those described by one word when first introduced will be called by the second in a subsequent passage. Thus, we are told in the Toynbee Cuilinge that the quote sweet mouth harpers of Cainbille unquote were also quote druids of great knowledge unquote. Even after separation had taken place, the bards retained, as Markale says, something of the character of priests, seeing themselves, quote, as one of the founts of wisdom in the Celtic world, unquote. It is significant that the British bards adopted the custom of putting the title Ullave, Ollave, originally reserved for druids and roughly equivalent to our own doctor, but with evocations of the word father before their names. According to Graves, presumably Robert Graves, it was still in use among Welsh bards up till the time of the Cromwellian conquest. Exactly how a man became a bard is not known, though the triads of the island of Britain and an anthology of triplets in which each subject is introduced in a single line followed by three examples suggests that in some cases the calling might have been hereditary. For number 40 tells us that three bards, Tristvard, de Gunaloo, please forgive my terrible pronunciation, the Bard of Owain, and Avan Verdig, Bard of Cadwallon, were, quote, sons of bards, unquote. Sue Prenter says, patience is a virtue. Yes, very much so. I mean, I was sitting here sharing jokes, archaeological jokes, and other things on Facebook, and people were apparently reacting in a positive manner, which is very unusual. People usually facepalm at my jokes. Indicative of a druidic past was both the enormous prestige and reward the bards enjoyed. Now, I'm going to check who's saying hello on the Mythical Ireland community. That's Michael Pike, who's saying greetings all. Hello, Michael. You're very welcome. Anna Liffey says, glad all got sorted technology. Hut, the bards never had this trouble. Very true. Yes, a broken quill was the worst of their, or lack of calf skin, of course, but then they just learned it all. Yes, they didn't need pen and paper, as it were. This is comparable only with that of a modern rock singer, and in some ways is greater. From one of his patrons, the Welsh bard Taliesin received 100 racehorses, 100 purple cloaks, 100 bracelets, 50 brooches, and a fine sword. Wow. Sounds like the medieval equivalent of Tom King was very busy. Burr Whelan is in the house. Hello, Burr. You're very welcome. Thanks for joining us. Samantha Healy is also in the house, or the library. Samantha, you're very welcome to the live stream. Although we should remember that it is the bards themselves who are telling us these things, and that it would have been to their advantage to stress, if not exaggerate, the generosity of past patrons to encourage present ones. There is no doubt a core of truth. And that's Kerem Gogus. Kerem, you're very welcome. Congratulations on having your drone henge model featured on Adrian Dunbar's program and getting credited in the credits. Woo! Good stuff. By tradition, no gift could be refused to a bard, even by a king. And there are several examples of full and unscrupulous use of being made of this. At the same time, we have instances of mythological characters who impersonated bards solely to obtain a desired object. In one of the British tales, the magician Gwydion, who covets the swine belonging to Pryderi, king of Dyfed, the Welsh people will be smacking their foreheads saying, God, Anthony, that's terrible pronunciation, resorts to just such a device. Having gained entrance to the court through it, he demands the swine in payment for his stories. Pryderi refuses on the ground that he has promised his subjects he will not part with them by way of gift or sale. Gwydion suggests a compromise. The letter of the agreement does not specifically forbid exchange, and he magically produces 12 magnificently caparisoned horses and 12 hounds with which he tempts Pryderi. The king accepts. But he has been duped, for the chimerical creatures dissolve within 24 hours, by which time Gwydion and his companions have made good their escape. Pryderi got off comparatively lightly. It was said that a king was forced to sacrifice an eye, at the behest of a heartless bard. Brendan Byrne says there's a gravestone in an old graveyard in Glendalough dedicated to the roving bard, a well-known local bard. There you go, fantastic stuff. GAE of Tua, that is Carol Barrett on the Mythical Ireland community, only appearing here as Facebook user for some reason, but Carol, you're very welcome. What's going on with your YouTube channel, says Peter. I don't know. I don't even want to look. Why? What's going on? Ads? The first step is you're only joining us, maybe, Peter. It says serious technical difficulties tonight. Didn't start the stream until about 15 minutes ago. Started one, and apparently people could neither hear nor see me. Yeah. So a sarcastic and cutting poet could be known as a bardware. Oh, God. Don't mention Tom's menu in the Forge if you're there in the morning time, the early bard menu. Kathy May Dayao is in the house. My lunch. Over. Have a good weekend. Oh, well, we'll see you on the replay, Kathy May. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks for saying hello. Margaret Kelly Murphy is saying hello from New York City. Well, what a combination of Irish names. The second most popular or commonplace Irish surname is Kelly, and the first is Murphy. So there you go. You're very welcome. Whoops, meant good day, says Kathy May. Well, maybe it will be a goof day. Well, I mean, it's been a bit of a goof evening, hasn't it? In at least some cases, bards seem to have been free to cross the tribal frontiers, a privilege also accorded to the Druids, and like them were apparently exempt from military service. In some ways, they were almost outside the tribe itself, for whenever there was an intertribal war, the bards of both sides jointly withdrew to some suitable vantage point, and there observed the ensuing struggle. And I'm struggling now, I don't know, nothing to do with just having a couple of sips. Assessing the merits of the principal warriors, rather as cricket commentators covering a test match for their respective countries, will pool their opinions of batsmen. The analogy is not a flippant one, for the sense of a game played according to a set of rules is predominant in descriptions of Celtic warfare. For all this, we should not assume that the bard was an uncommitted observer of the life of his society. According to the triads, it was bards who, quote, committed the 3 beneficial assassinations of the Isle of Britain, unquote. In fact, giant slayings. And Triad number 91 lists, quote, the three beneficial artisans of the Isle of Britain, unquote, also bards. They are Corvinwer, who gave the Cambrians their first ship with sails and a rudder, Mordal, who taught the use of stone and lime. In the words of the Triad, quote, at the time the Emperor Alexander was subduing the world, unquote. And Coil, Coel, son of Killen, who made the first mill wheel. But these activities, useful as they might be, were secondary to their main one, that of providing music and story. This was so deeply woven into the fabric of Celtic life that bards are found even in households of the gods. The Dagda, sire of a whole generation of deities, has his harper and personal harp. Stolen, it flies back to the hands of its true owner when he addresses it with the invocation, come, apple sweet murmurer, come, four-angled frame of harmony, come, summer, come, winter, from the mouths of harps and bags and pipes. There you go. The Dagda entering the fray here. Thus, Irish bardism, at any rate, seems to have a divine origin. Of the craft in Britain, we are told in Triad number 92 that the three inventors of song and record were Gwyddon Gandahon, Hu the Mighty, and Tydane. And yet again, please forgive any mistaken pronunciations, and I mean, when I say any, probably all. Quote, who first conferred art on poetic song and made it the medium of record, unquote. Be going for a little nap after this, or a very large nap, actually. The names of illustrious bards have come down to us, and some of them, like the Irish Toan Macarel and Amergin, and the Welsh Taliesin and Anirin, are possibly historical figures. The magician known to Arthurian legend as Merlin may well have been based partly on a bard named Myrdin, Myrdin. The question of Merlin and his identity is the subject of Nikolai Tolstoy's admirable book, The Quest for Merlin. Some believe Merlin's name to be commemorated in the place name Carmarthen, or Muradin's Care. And it is true that the suffix care, a stronghold, is often attached to a personal name, as in Caerleon, Caerleon. However, modern scholarship suggests that rather than the town being named after Muradin, his name was derived from the town. Muradin is the Welsh form of the P Celtic Mordunon. Mor means the sea, or Mur in Irish, and Dunon, present in names like Dundee in Scotland and Lundon in France, means a fort, yielding a sea fort. There you go. Helena wants a swig of the whiskey. There you go. Cheers. And we have Bert. Hang on, where is Bert gone? Bert ON3 BCL. 5-9, old man. 5-9 is your signal report from EI2KC. Good evening to you. Fine business. The bard was expected to be trained in specific skills, both narrative and musical. The latter included command of the three noble harp strains. The lament strain, which could bring his hearers to tears. The laughter strain, which replaced tears of sorrow for those of joy. And the sleep strain, which could lull them to slumber. Among those who were masters of the three noble strains was the solar deity Lu, surnamed Lu of the Many Skills or Lu Samil Donach, on account of his wide-ranging versatility, of which bardic skill was but one. Thanks for the report. What mode are we? This is phone, I presume, Brendan. I could send that to you in CW if you like, but that'll put the rest of the audience to sleep. Perhaps maybe we'll leave that for the air. We're talking ham radio here, guys. We have done before. We've had several licensed radio amateurs saying hello in the comments during the course of our last 202 live streams. Besides the noble strains, there is evidence that the Celts, like the ancient Egyptians and the Indians today, had particular musical modes assigned to certain seasons, which may explain the come summer, come winter references in the Dagda's invocation to his purloined harp. Like the Indian ragas, too, it is possible that there were modes for particular times of day. I'm sure you know, isn't it? The word afternoon comes from the word known, which is an afternoon prayer, isn't it? Not sure if that's a prayer that was sung or just spoken. Knowns. Music could not merely soothe the savage beast. Apparently, it could also still it permanently. For we are told in Toynbo Freach that when Freach's horn players preceded him into his court, their melody was such that 30 of his guests, quote, died of yearning, unquote. Well, I mean, some of the brass band rehearsals I've been at have been pretty bad, but like not that bad. Not bad enough to send, people over the edge. On the other hand, it had its curative aspect, too, as in the story of the dumb Prince Maon, whose speech was restored by the melody of a master harper. Peter Woods. Yes, I had. It's Redbreast 12 is what it is. I cracked it open in that hour when I was waiting for the Melanap streaming site to get working. So there you go. It's good stuff. That's what I'm on tonight. The good stuff, the really good stuff. Though the Celtic love for song and story amounted to an addiction, wow, it was not solely on this account that the bard enjoyed honour and reward. He also possessed magical powers. Seized by what the Welsh still call Awen, the divine muse, he did not merely declaim, he prophesied. He prophesied, even. And Carol is wondering what book I'm reading. This is Celtic Mythology by Ward Rutherford. This was originally published in the early 1990s, I think. Yeah, published in 1990. Originally published in Great Britain by the Aquarian Press, 1987. This is 1990, Sterling Publishing Company, New York. I think it might still be in print, or there are more recent printings of it. Yes, seized by what the Welsh still call Awen, the divine muse, he did not merely declaim, he prophesied. As late as the times of Gerald of Wales, and of course we know there were soothsayers, as it were, in Irish mythology, because when the Milesian brothers, Amergin and Dunn et al., arrived at Ishnok, before any of them had uttered a word, Eru said, long have our soothsayers prophesied your arrival here, As late as the times of Gerald of Wales, individuals known collectively as Awinidion, I don't know the pronunciation, so please forgive me if that's incorrect, were to be found and were consulted by those who wished to know the future. In order to discover it, they threw themselves into frenzied paroxysms, babbling incoherently and giving all the indications of being entranced. It was for the questioner to winnow his answer from the chaff. Gerald, though he does not seem to have witnessed the performance, suggests the Awenadion may have been in the thrall of demons or spirits, a not untypical medieval conclusion. He casts doubt on the validity of the answers given in this way, on the ground that if the same question were put twice, it received different responses each time. All the same, one cannot help being reminded of the frenzies of the Delphic Pythia in their prophetic trance. Even more dreaded was another of the bard's quasi-magical skills, the power to sing the glam. Is that Irish? Glamdicking. Glamdic. Is that a fodder? Don't think it is. Pardon me while I look closely. No. Yeah, the Glamdicking or Dickin. This was a form of lampoon with the potency of a spell, which at one extreme could be used to drive out rats, and at the other to disable, even kill, a human victim. The glam was feared as much as, or more than, the weapons of an enemy, and even the greatest heroes avoided falling victim to it. Wow. So just when you thought your sharpened sword was enough, and that your shield was enough to defend you from the striking blows of your enemy, you sometimes had to close your ears too. When Ferdia is ordered by Maeve, his queen, to do mortal combat with his fellow student in arms, Cuchulainn, he tries to refuse, only to be warned that he will be satirized. Correct, you heard right. Not castrated or decapitated, not cut from the navel to the chin, not what's it called, disemboweled, not stretched on a rack. No, he will be satirized. He does the Queen's bidding and dies for his efforts. Should have taken the satirization. Sorry, I'm being lighthearted, and I shouldn't. It is a similar threat which compels Cuchulainn himself to yield his 3 spears to the enemy bards who ask for them. By gaining them, they are able to master and so destroy him. Brendan says, well, the pen is still mightier than the sword. True in many respects. That, not difficult, that. Wow. Yeah, this is kind of one that's too long for one, and it's nearly too short to be split in two. So I think what I'll do is I'll split it in two, and then I will talk about... yes, we may read a Spanish myth. That's what we'll do. Prophecy, yes. The frenzy seems to be a common occurrence around prophecy, says Anne. Yeah, the soothsayers were known to behave in what we might describe as very peculiar manner, which may have all the appearances of psychosis. But not so. As with so much else in Celtic life, the glam shares a mythical origin. When the divine Irish bard Corpora visits the Fomorian tyrant Bress, offended by his shabby treatment. Of course, we have encountered this story several times during our live streams over the last couple of years. He leaves the palace without taking leave of his host, and instead of the customary panegyric, sings the first glam uttered in Ireland. Of course, panegyric is a song in praise of someone or something. Just give me 1 second. I want to just look up the word glam, G-L-A-M, on the electronic. Yes, it's glom. It's G-L-A-M. A satire, a lampoon, or a censure. So that should be G-L-A-M, and that is poor form on the author and the publishers of this book not to have the fada there, because as the Irish speakers among us will know, well, I thought Biogon Gaelga Agam, but enough to know that GLAM, glom, and GLA glom are two different sounding words and two different meaning words. Somebody's running out of time and has to go. That is Sheila Gunn. I'll be on a beach in, where is Cozumel? Oh, there's all sorts of place names tonight that I've never heard of. We'll try to get on. Thank you. Well, that sounds lovely. And Kabir, if you can join us on the beach, please do. But look, if if you're not so inclined and you're sipping pina coladas or whatever it is you're doing on the beach, we will completely we'll be a bit jealous, but we'll completely understand. Mexico, says Sheila. Mexico, very nice. Very nice. And here is the glom uttered by a corpora in relation to breasts. No meat on plates, no milk from kine, no welcome for the late. That is ironic. No reward for bards, may Bress's cheer be what he gives to others. The Fomorian king came out in red blotches, and, since a monarch must be unblemished, had no option but to abdicate. And of course, this is the build-up to the great second battle of Moytura, Cot Moytura, which we have featured on numerous live streams, but which, if you haven't heard, I won't spoil for you, as it were. Later, when the Fomorians made war on their enemies, the Tuatha De Danann, Corpora, himself a member of the divine Tuatha clan, again put his satirical skill to use to, quote, take away, quote, the honour of the Fomorian warriors, thereby incapacitating them even before the battle. Fascinating stuff. So all you had to do in a battle was satirize your enemy. You didn't even have to raise a sword or throw a spear. Like Owen, belief in the power of the Bard's lampoon continued in Wales well into the Middle Ages. And it was believed that it could bring its victim out in blisters. Well, there you go. That's no doubt stemming from the tradition, well, associated with the tradition of Bress. In the light of our modern knowledge of the intimate relationship between psyche and soma, mind and body, it seems far from inconceivable. No one who has travelled in the Celtic lands can fail to recognise that the predilection for story, poetry, and music is not a thing of the past. In Wales, there is the Eisteddfod, whose beginnings go back at least to the 15th century. Though 300 years earlier, Gerald was praising the ingenuity and inventiveness of his native poets, especially in their own tongue. Among literary devices, he singles out alliteration, a device also used by the Old English Scots. And again, to my Welsh friends, I do apologise for any mispronunciations of the Welsh words and places and people's names, personal names. I'm not a scholar in Welsh at all, unfortunately. The high point of the Eisteddfod was the Gorsedd, the assembly of poets, at which the bardic crown is awarded. And I wonder whether that doesn't go all the way back. Here in Ireland, such things don't go all the way back into prehistoric times. A similar, though less renowned, event takes place in Cornwall, and the migration of large numbers of Welsh emigrants to the United States and particularly to Ohio, led to its establishment there. Liam Smith has joined us. Liam, you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Good evening to you, and I hope you are well also, as indeed I am. Apart from the fact that we were an hour late starting tonight due to technical issues with the Melon app streaming website. But other than that, we're all good. Music in the form music in the forms both of singing and the playing of instruments, especially the harp, is another central feature of Celtic life that shows a remarkable continuity. Outsiders visiting chapels or any of those other places at which the Welsh foregather are constantly amazed, not simply by their readiness to burst into song, but by their capacity for spontaneous counterpoint and harmonization. This characteristic was another of those which elicited delighted comment from the deeply patriotic Gerald of Wales, who says of his fellow countrymen that when a choir gathered to sing, quote, "You will hear as many parts as there are performers, all joining together in the end to produce a single organic harmony," unquote. Gerald also describes how guests arriving in a Welsh household will be entertained by the daughters of the family on the harp. It was plainly not regarded as a uniquely feminine accomplishment for a few lines later. For a few lines later, he declares that, quote, "the men folk consider playing on the harp to be the greatest of all accomplishments," unquote. He also tells us that besides the harp, they played two other instruments, the pipe and the cruth or crutta, a bowed instrument with affinities to the fiddle. And that crutta sounds very much like the Irish word for harp, crut, crut, or crutch, or crut, crut. In Middle Irish, mend crot, a bowed instrument with affinities to the fiddle. Yes. Let me just double check the spelling of that. Mendcrott? No, it's not. CROT? See, that's what happens when you search head words only. Yeah. Ah, yes. Different spellings. That's what it is. Mencrot. Menchrott, a stringed musical instrument, a kind of lute or small harp. Question mark. Of course, nobody knows because apparently this instrument, as it is described in the medieval manuscripts, has not survived into modern times, not in its original form. The harp and fiddle are still intrinsic to Irish music, although maybe it was a harp. Maybe it's just a harp. Maybe they did have harps back then. I don't like to harp on. uh, and as people always mistake, they say you want to harp back to ancient times. No, hark back. Gerald describes the Irish as playing their instruments at great speed and expresses admiration for their ability to maintain musical balance while moving their fingers so quickly. And of course, this is a peculiar talent of many of the players of today who we saw at events such as the Flachjol, which was held here in Drogheda for a couple of years, which was absolutely fantastic. Helena Breen, yeah, lawyer, perhaps. What I'm just conscious of here is the fact that I'm not familiar with the archaeology of music, as in, what is the oldest example of a harp that has been found in Ireland? And how far back do we think they actually go? As I say, there's plenty of mentions of instruments that sound like they could be harps, the harp of the Dagda and all of that. But there's no certainty as to what I'm not sure there's enough description in the mythology to ascertain the complete correct identity of what the instrument is. One moment. Yes. So during the past week, I picked up a book that I didn't have in my collection, which is The Myths and Legends of Spain, which is very interesting. It's an area of mythology that I'm not really very familiar with, and I'm looking forward to sort of dipping into it. So this is one of these Senate reprints. I have tons of those just behind my head there, actually. Just there. See that row of books there? They're all the Senate spines. So from there, that sweep of books there, they're Senate, and I have several others interspersed through the collection or through the library. The great thing about the Senate books is that they were facsimile reprints. A lot of them were printed in the 1990s. In this case, 1994. Well, this is a 1995 reprint, but the original book doesn't always say, by the way, which is actually can be annoying. Doesn't always give. Yes, 1920. So the original published in 1920, and this is a facsimile reprint. And the wonderful thing about the facsimile reprints is you're getting the book exactly as it was back then, but at a much, much reduced price. Now, although I'm not sure, I could be mistaken, I don't see the Senate stuff coming out anymore. So I think this is just a phase where they were reproducing a lot of old work. However, there's a couple of them, forgotten books, and the ones with the orangey, those ones there. Scholar Select. Yes, a lot of those are available. And in fact, a lot of those older books are available as downloadable PDFs from the internet, which is greatly helpful. So perhaps we will do in the near future an episode or two featuring Spanish mythology. We've done classical mythology. I think I've done some Native American mythology. I think I've done some Dreamtime. So we could have a look at some. I'll have a squiz through it, as we say colloquially. I will have a look through it beforehand. I wonder. I've been told, that the story about, or the story is more than a story. It's an entire epoch or an entire era of mythology here in Ireland. I've been told that there is a Spanish version of the Milesian story where the Spanish brothers leave Spain to go to Ireland. I'd love to read it from the Spanish or Galician perspective. Just trying to have a look at what else has arrived into the library recently that might be of interest to us in our coming episodes. I did show you the Native American myths and legends, I think. I got a book on Irish writing. And several others that I've obviously put away in the meantime. So what I'll do is I'll continue with the Bards. So we'll do this latter part of the Bards one next week. Apologies for last week, by the way, folks. I was unwell. I just was feeling very under the weather. I went to bed at 4:00 in the afternoon for a little snooze, and I didn't get up till 10 p.m. And I went back to bed again at 11:30 and had a good night's sleep. So I was feeling a lot better after a day or two. So apologies for not streaming last week. I want to mention, if I can show it now, I do, please forgive me. I want to mention the GoFundMe. So the GoFundMe campaign was originally intended by Tom King to help get me home after we had a bit of an ordeal on holidays in Cork. But I decided instead that the money would be donated. Now, we raised €1,000 and 500 of that was donated to the Drogheda Homeless Aid and 500 to the Drogheda Dolls. and the Drogheda Dolls are fundraising for 4 separate charities. But just a reminder that the fund is still open, and anything. So at the moment, the current total raised is €1,375. So any additional monies raised will be again divided in two and will again be donated to Drogheda Homeless Aid and Drogheda Dolls. So if you haven't donated, please consider it. I mean, even if you threw in a fiver or a tenner, as the Tesco slogan goes, every little helps. Please don't forget also that the 2023 Mythical Ireland calendar is still for sale. I still have copies. You'll be glad to hear. So if you want your copy, they're available on the Mythical Ireland website, mythicalireland.com. In fact, I will paste a direct link so that you can go direct to the page where you can order your calendar, or bracket S calendars if you want more than one. Thank you to all of you who have ordered calendars to date. They've been flying out all around the world, which is fabulous. Can you repost it on the main page, please? Says Helena. Are you talking about the GoFundMe link? Is it? Yes, indeed, I can, Helena. If you give me one moment, I will do that. In fact, I'll post it here as a comment, and I will also post it under your comment on, I think you're on Facebook. Yes, you are on the main page. Yes, indeed. So myself and Tom have, been. Oh, there's another me talking. Stop that. Myself and Tom have been talking about, the annual fundraiser that we will now, as a result of this huge generosity on behalf of the Mythical Ireland community, that we will start to have it as an annual thing, an annual fundraiser with nominated charities. And if you want to see the check presentations that we did, I'll just post that link there. If there are any questions or comments, please do feel free to ask a question or make a comment. In relation to winter solstice, of course, we are just 16 days away now from winter solstice. Newgrange will be open as normal, as in they have done a winter solstice lottery draw. People will be inside the chamber this year. That obviously means there's no live stream, unfortunately. This has provoked a little bit of sadness among Mythical Ireland followers, which I can understand, because a lot of people, well, most people are unable to travel to Ireland to come and, and even if you did travel to Ireland, you'd have to win the draw to come in and see it, Anne McCallum got her calendars last week, and so did the one I sent to my friend in Chicago. Beautiful, brilliant stuff, and delighted to hear that they arrived safe and sound. So I will endeavour, do my best to be at Newgrange for several of the mornings around the solstice, to do some live streaming, to take some photographs, as I used to do pre-pandemic. The other thing is that Doubt won't be open. Now, I did ask, because several people had been asking me, is Doubt going to be open on the afternoon of the solstice for the sunset? And I said I would ask, and I asked, and I was told, no, there are no plans this year. And a lot of people got kind of quite annoyed about that on Facebook, and were making all sorts of comments, and there was all sorts of suggestions as to why, which sounded like sort of paranoid conspiracy theories. I don't want to get involved in any of that, folks. I'm just the messenger. Mythical Ireland is an independent entity with no direct affiliations with the OPW. The people who run the monuments out there, many of them are known to me, and some of them are friends of mine. If you're really interested in finding out why, perhaps just drop them a friendly email and say, look, I was hoping to visit Doubt for the solstice, but I see it's not open. I'm wondering if there's a reason. I'm sure there are very valid reasons for it, which are not related to some of the things that people were suggesting, Yay, more photography, says Saoirse. Yes, well, I need to get stuff for next year's calendar too, obviously, Don't forget, yes, in the background, always thinking, what about next year's calendar? So I was a little bit taken aback by the response on social media. And people were kind of shooting the messenger, and some people were just asking why. Is there a reason why? But other people were offering a reason as to why, and some of that descended into paranoia. Always the government is out to get us, folks, don't you know? Always. Anyway, perhaps I better leave that there. Enough said, says you. We'll probably do something special to mark the solstice. Winter solstice this year is on a Wednesday. We probably do something special on this day fortnight to mark the solstice. I will probably, while I am there, live stream from the monument, as I think the last time I did that was 2019. Those live streams, even if you just walk around with the phone live streaming and just showing the crowds and the people there and the sun rising, people just seem to love that. Yeah, it is a pity that there's no live stream. It worked very well in that it opened the Newgrange solstice event to a much wider audience, because there are only, I think, is it 10 lottery winners and a few guests who go in every morning. I mean, there are less than 20 people in the chamber. It's lovely for them. I've been among those in 2010. Margaret, you're very welcome. I've been among those in 2010, those in the chamber, when I took photographs. Some of the photographs you'll have seen in my Newgrange book and some of my other books, you know. It's a lovely thing to be able to participate in, just to be there, because you're conscious of the fact that people gathered there at that time of year more than 5,000 years previously. And it's a wonderful connection with the past, you know, to be able to repeat that and to, look, to be in the chamber and to see it obviously is an extraordinary honor and privilege and joy. And don't forget also that it was only last year that it was revealed that the sun enters the chamber of Newgrange for a lot longer than we previously thought. 18 days plus or minus. 18 days prior to and after the day of solstice. So in other words, from the 3rd of December until the 8th of January. So for the past few mornings, now I don't know, I didn't get any reports, and I'm not sure if any of the staff were on the site early enough to see it. But for the past few mornings, providing, and it's been very, very wet here in the Boyne Valley for the past couple of weeks, and cloudy. If the clouds weren't there, the sun would actually be shining into the chamber of Newgrange. So the sun is really in that phase now where it's moving so slowly every day. It's practically reaching that standstill that will occur around the time of the 21st. It will halt for a few days and then gradually, very gradually start to turn back, and will still, providing it's clear, still shine its light into the chamber of Newgrange on the 8th of January and into the passage probably for several weeks, for at least a couple of weeks after that. So yeah, that's the story. Don't forget also that if you want extra photographs and video content and me sharing my next book as it's being written, among other things, please do consider becoming a patron of Mythical Ireland, and you can do so at that address there, patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. Patrons at the higher levels also get merchandise. There's a Mythical Ireland mug and there's a poster and there's other things. So yeah, by all means, do sign up and become a patron and get the early access sometimes to material. The Michael Slavin interview, which is an hour and a half special film made in the past couple of months, is available to Mythical Ireland patrons at the Bronze Age level and above, as is the video we made in August with Michael Quirk, the Sligo woodcarver and wonderful raconteur, the wonderful storyteller, and a great mythologist, a man who's very, very well read on Irish mythology, and not just on Irish mythology. He's familiar with Graves and Homer and all the rest. Indira is arriving late. Yes, and you're very welcome. And we're actually late because the stream was delayed by over an hour tonight due to technical difficulties with the streaming service. So we're just wrapping up, actually. But it's great to see you, Indira. I hope you're keeping well. And I hope that we will see you on the next one for the second part of the Bards. And as I say, this day, 2 weeks, we will plan to do some form of live stream celebrating the solstice in some way. I will come up with an idea for that. But there's endless talk that we could do about Newgrange, and of course that great monument occupies so much of what we've been exploring, not just on the live streams for the past 2.5 years, but indeed on the Mythical Ireland website and in all my written work spanning the last 23 years. That magnificent monument occupying such a place of supremacy amidst all that material. Oh, Yvette is late, but better late than never, Yvette. And as I said to Indira, we had serious difficulties getting going tonight. The streaming website Melon app was down, and I couldn't stream until about, was it 9:05 or so, an hour, well, over an hour after we were supposed to start. It's now 10 p.m. Irish time. I'd normally be finishing after 9, and it's after 10 tonight, so there you go. Michael Pike thinks that was a really interesting topic. Once again, thank you, Michael, for tuning in. Glad to see you here, of course, as always, and very delighted to hear that you enjoyed the stream. Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter says, Anthony, thanks for another great episode. You're the best. Well, in fairness, I was kind of only reading, but yeah, I enjoyed that material too. Nice to hear the British comparisons, because we don't get so much of that. Because remember, if you're reading a book about Celtic mythology, something like 70 or 80% of what you'll be reading is Irish mythology, you know. So it's good to hear the Welsh stuff, and even some of the stuff about the English bards as well. Tom King says, good fun tonight. Thank you, Anthony, and all the mighty to us. Stay safe out there, my friends. Until next time. Yeah. And don't forget, you know, if you're having one, I mean, it's my excuse is it's getting cold here. You know, it's going to be a cold week, so we need the dram, you know. Gary is reminding us that we might see each other once again at the Ishnok Fire, which is at Daltona next year. And although that's 6 months away, January, February, March, April, May. No, 5 months away. That time will fly around. You know, although we're almost in the middle of winter now, that time will fly around. Hanging in there amidst all the difficulties to bring the live Irish myths. Yeah, well, I just said, I'm not around tomorrow night. So I said, I don't mind waiting. I don't have anywhere else to be. So it just made sense to wait patiently to see if they fixed it. And thankfully, they did fix it for us. Sláinte Wayne Ikawa Kolosov. Thank you, Anna. You're very welcome. And Helen, indeed, thank you also. Bert 73 ON3BCL from EI2KC 73. And Brendan Byrne is heading off to the Laba. You're very kind to join us. Michael Madden, no is the quick answer to that. No, it's not due to the reconstruction done in the 1960s. In fact, if you read Archaeoastronomy Database was saying that he reckons that what are we calling it? The range was wider in the Neolithic. It's actually to do with an effect of the wobble of the Earth's axis. More so than anything to do with the structure. O'Kelly faithfully restored the monument as close as possible to its original. So, and in fact, the light beam does not reach as far into the chamber now as it did back then. And again, that's all down to do with the obliquity of the ecliptic and that wobble of the Earth's axis. There will come a time in the future, thousands of years in the future, when the sun will not shine into the chamber of Newgrange. But because this is a cycle, because it comes back and forth, it oscillates, it will come back again. And in the future, the sun will once again shine into Newgrange, if Newgrange is still there, of course, not assuming anything. Us humans have a way of destroying things. That it will eventually return to the exact extent of its penetration of the Neolithic. You should do a Redbreast advert. They're funny. They're funny like your puns. She said, don't encourage me. Definitely not. Go gently. Night, Mandy, thanks for joining us from up north. Good to see you. Saoirse Ní Cheandal says, we enjoy Irish whiskey from Donegal. Silky by Slieve League Distillery, and Crawley whiskey from Juglin. What is that? Crawley in Gweedore. Brilliant stuff. I'll have to try them all. I did say once, and I suggested it, and it seemed to get a lot of positive response during the pandemic, of course, when nobody could go anywhere. I did suggest that when we were able to, we would eventually organise a Mythical Ireland whiskey tour, and that seemed to get a great response. So maybe that's something we will do in the future. No alcohol for at least a few more hours, says Barbara. That's okay. That's allowed. And only a little drop for me. Good day, everyone from Iowa, says Mark. We are saying goodbye, Mark. So it's hello and goodbye all in the one. But thank you all for joining us. And what a pleasant night it was eventually when the live streaming site eventually got itself working. Thank you to the technicians working behind the scenes on that, by the way. We forget that sometimes technological issues do occur, and it's good that there are experienced technicians who are able to fix these things. Maybe they just had to switch it off and switch it back on again, which is what every IT department suggests you do before you start getting the toolkit out and the screwdrivers and the spanners. Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you very soon. I'm Anthony Murphy. This has been Live Irish Myths, episode number 203. We'll see you further down the line. Ihawa Kulasov, Slong a Foal, August Tog Gopogay.